What's good? What's good, baby? It's your boy Trudex, the Sports Junkie, and welcome to the second show on the third season of MVS Presents the Startem Sitem Show, our fantasy football show. Of course, I got the homie in the building from the Bay Area. What up, Keo?
What's good, man? Shout out to USA for winning the gold medal. Um, and I'm glad I'm doing the show today because I got a draft that I got to do. So maybe you'll give me some free game today.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. We here to give pointers. We here to help y'all out. But this show is gonna be a little different, especially when it comes to drafts. I'm glad you brought that up. This is gonna be the logistics of a league and drafts. We're not gonna really talk about players, but one situation, and that's our question of the day. But outside of that, this is gonna be more along the lines of, how a draft should be set up, what site. And speaking of what site, we're gonna kick it off with that. What is the best site to play fantasy football on? There's a bunch of sites out there that you can play fantasy football on. What is your favorite? And what's your least favorite?
My favorite is obviously ESPN. Actually, you got me into ESPN when I first met you. When we first met, I started playing in Yahoo leagues. That's how I first started. But ESPN has been huge on me, man. I definitely like ESPN. I don't have a problem with Yahoo. I still play in a couple Yahoo leagues with some of my old coworkers. So I do play Yahoo, but I prefer ESPN. I think probably the worst one of all is CBS. Um, yeah,
Wow.
one of my boys that I play with like every year. They do CBS, and hopefully he doesn't see this, but I hate CBS. They give you the updates late, the injury updates late, so I definitely hate that. But I'm more of a ESPN type of guy. I don't have a problem with Yahoo. I like Yahoo because they give you like the draft grades after the draft. So
Yeah.
I think that's pretty dope. And they give you like a report after your first week if you win
Uh-huh.
or lost. But ESPN's definitely stepping up their game though because they do their projections now after the draft, um, on the and the league tools. So that's where I'm gonna go with.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Q Man, homie from the MBS brand. He say he likes Yahoo as well. Well, for me, the best site, I'm with Keo, clearly is ESPN when it comes to fantasy football. I like how clean and crisp it is, how easy it is to set your lineup, how easy it is to get out of the lineup, how easy it is to pick up somebody off the waivers, how easy it is to see the waivers. Like it's easy to search for people. I really like ESPN. As far as the site that I don't like, there's really no site I don't like. I just don't like going from ESPN to Yahoo to NFL to CBS. I don't like going from page to page. So I really don't really rock with all the rest. I really just rock with ESPN. If you have a Yahoo league, I played in a few Yahoo leagues before, but I hate going back and forth. So once I'm in my ESPN app, I want to set my lineup for Sunday, and I want to be done with that. I don't want to have to go to the ESPN app, then turn around and go to the NFL app, then go to the Yahoo app. So for me, I'm not going to say there's one I don't like, but the best for me clearly is ESPN. Okay, Keo, this is one that people have, a lot of arguments over. Is it better to do a snake draft or an auction draft?
Um, Once again, man. When I started playing fantasy football, came with the I started with snake drafts. Um, but when I ever since I've been playing in the MBS league, um, I've been playing in a lot of auction drafts. So I normally prefer auction drafts, but there's some people out there that love the snake drafts. I don't know why. Um, I think yeah, I'm going with I don't mind about what draft it is. If it's snake snake or auction, but if you're asking me, I prefer an auction draft, because with an auction draft is you could get any player you want, any players available to get. Like based on the snake draft, you're gonna go by an order. So if somebody grabs that player, you can't get them. But with an auction draft, is you could bid and go in on a player whoever you want. So I think that's the advantages and disadvantages when it comes to a snake. And I know auction drafts takes longer.
That's right.
Like that's the biggest complaints that I've gotten from people when it comes to fantasy leagues, that auction drafts takes too long, and you take through is the whole day. But dude, it's one time a year, man. It's not like you're doing it every single day. So that's where I stand when it comes to snake versus auction drafts.
Yeah,
I
big
know where
facts.
you're gonna go.
Yeah, I mean, big facts. Come on, man. Um, I really believe that if you play, and look, I want people to understand what I'm about to say. It's no disrespect. It's just the way I see it. I've been playing fantasy for a long time. If you're playing a snake draft league, that's basically like the rookie leagues. We call those the rookie leagues. The legends of fantasy, the fantasy people that have been around for a long time. That's more like the rookie leagues. You're just getting in tuned with fantasy football. Snake is not bad to jump in. But if you want to play with the big dogs, the sharks in the water, you got to do auction. Auction, to me, like Keo said, is the fairest way. If Keo likes Alvin Kamara, like he said on this show numerous times, on other shows, on just talking to me and to him and I just talking, basically he says, I want Alvin Kamara. Well, if he plays in a snake draft and he doesn't get the first pick or the second or third pick, he's basically out of Alvin Kamara. That's not really fair in my mind. Like, you should have a chance to get any player that you want. So if you didn't get him, that's on you. That's not nobody else. If you're willing to bid for him, go get him. But the one setback I will agree with Q on for sure, is definitely how long it takes. I know a lot of people, they get aggravated. Shout out to Jay, not just Justin, Jay Franchise. Jay Franchise, he is like totally against auction drafts because how long it takes. But like I tell everybody, man, like Keo said, it's the fairest way to me because it's all on you. You kind of got to have a number up there, like how much you're going to spend on certain players. And you got to be willing to walk away whenever that number gets past your bottom line, basically. So I'm going auction draft on this. Clearly, you knew where I was going with it, Keo. But there you have it. Okay, Keo, what is the perfect amount of fantasy people in one league? A lot of times you have people that do 8 people in a league, 10 people in a league. And if you know the MBS brand, we do 16. Some people say, oh, X, that's way too much. Y'all got 16 in your league. What's your thoughts? What's the perfect number amount for a fantasy football league?
The perfect amount is at least 12. I'm fine with 12. 16, it's like it's pretty active, man. I'm not in many big leagues like that, but 12 is fine with me. I think that's the basically the as far as when it comes to fantasy football, you talk to any fantasy football, it's 12 teams, man. Like I'm not gonna play. I prefer not to play any leagues with 10 to 12, only if it's like close friends. I know last year we had a small little league to start off the league, so I only played that because with close friends like you. That's one of the reasons why I did a league like that. That's funny though, man, because I had this discussion with your brother. Shout out to Vic. We're in a 12 team league, and he keeps he keeps being he's complaining about 12 teams. He was like, nah, man, 14 teams, man. If it's 12 teams, everybody's gonna have a good team. I don't think that's true though, man. If it's an auction draft, I think it may be different. But if you're talking about snake draft with a 12-team league, I think he does make a good point. But I'm fine with 12. 12 or more is fine with me.
Okay, first let me put it out there. I'm not playing an 8-man team league. That's whack to me. I'm not playing in 10. Only
You
because,
did last year.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, and like you said, if it's not like my friends, like close friends, I'm definitely not doing it. Appreciate that, T-Dub. Shout out to Q as well. But I'm definitely not doing it if it's 8 or 10. 12, that's borderline for me because I feel like you don't have to even know fantasy. You could just literally get in a fantasy league. They got 8 teams, and it's the luck of the draw then. I mean, you really don't have to really play the waiver wire. Whatever you drafted, it is what it is. And especially if you did a snake draft, you basically just looked at a magazine and said, oh, well, that's the best available, or you just saw best available and took them. And you could win like that. I'm more along the lines with Vic, as y'all can see. That's my brother. Shout out to Vic. 14 is the minimum. It got to be 14, man. That's where I would like to start because I feel like now it makes a person work. You can't just draft a team that ESPN told you was the best team or the best players and you took them, or a magazine told you that. You have to literally do your homework. And when you're playing for money, you want people to have to work for it. It ain't just going to come to you naturally or just free. So I'm going 14. I love the 16. We've had 20. You remember when it was 20 back in the day? I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go 14 as a minimum. Speaking of money, what is a good buy-in price for a league? Now, do one with friends and one without friends. One that you would do, or a minimum that you would pay, or the most you would pay to play in a league.
First, let me get this out of the way. I don't want to play in any free leagues. The only way I'll play in the free league is if you're my like a good friend of mine and a family member. Like my cousin, he has free leagues all the time, so I join it because it's my cousin. But if it's anybody else, I'm definitely not going to join it. But I think the minimum for people is 25. I think 50 is decent. I think 100. It's kind of a risk taker because during the times that we're in today and the situation we're in today, it's money nowadays. It's tough, but I think $100 buy-in. I don't know about you, but for me, I call it a big money league. But like I think $25 from conversations that I had with fantasy football fans this year, I think that's more of a reasonable price for them when it comes to 25.
Yeah. As far as what you said, you already know, Keo. I ain't doing no free league. I don't care if you my homeboy. I ain't doing none of that. I ain't got time to play with no free league. Like y'all can have that. It got to be money involved for me to play. But I'm gonna go. I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't play in a $25 league, but you'd have to be a really good friend of mine. It'd have to be like a bunch of friends of mine that I really just want to, chat with, clown with, talk a lot of trash, or maybe there's a great trophy at the end of it. But for the most part, I want to be at 50 or above. 50 or above. 50 is my starting point. Because I want to feel like if I'm setting my lineup, and Keo, how much I take fantasy football serious, fantasy basketball. I got a few of them Johns. I got a few of them things.
Wow.
But if I'm gonna set my lineup, man, at the end of the day, bro, like I'm working hard playing the waiver wire, trying to send out these trades, having phone conversations. It gotta be, man. It gotta be worth it, man. It gotta be worth my time. So I'm going 50 or higher. The most I would probably play would probably be about 250 if I feel like we're friends. I'm not playing 250 if I don't know who you are. Because if you don't pay me, I'm I'm not gonna. Yeah, we're gonna leave that to another. We're gonna just leave that alone. But yeah, 250, maybe friends, family. I would play, but and it still gotta be a lot of people. At least 14. I'm trying to go. So that's where I'm going with it, Keo. Let's do this. All right, Keo. Let me see which one we'll go to next. Let's do this. Should there be a limit on trades? That's the one that everybody fusses over. Should there be a limit on trades?
Oh man, no. I don't think there should be a limit in trades. I think there should be a trade deadline. But I don't think there should be a limit in trades. I think like maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not sure when, but we had a league where we had a trade limit. You only could trade 10 times. Um, I know some leagues they got their own rules when it comes to trades. I know one league I'm in where if you use your limit on trades, you would have to pay an extra $5 to if you want to make another trade, despite you going over your trade limit. So I think that's a good idea also. But for me, I'm going with no trade limits because you got a trade deadline. So, and I think trading's fun when it comes to fantasy football. You get drama behind it, but I think it's fun for fantasy football. I even played in a league where it was a no trade league. I hated it. It was no fun in it at all. but uh, but yeah, that's where I stand when it comes to trade limits.
Okay, how you think what I'm gonna say, Keo? Tell him what you think I'm gonna say.
I think you're against trade limits.
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? I love trade. That's the point of fantasy. I mean, at the end of the day, like I'm not gonna get everybody I want in the draft. I understand that. It doesn't matter if you do auction or not. You're just not gonna get everybody that you want. So then you have to be strategic in your efforts in the draft. Okay, I know I can get this guy. I really want him. But Keo likes this guy. He's running low on money. I can go ahead and draft him. Or Vic likes this person. Let me go ahead and draft him. And I can try to trade for somebody that he has that I want on my team. So I love being the strategic part when it comes to trading. So I'm definitely saying there should be no limit. At the end of the day, like, it's your money. Like, if you want to trade whoever you want to trade, you should be able to trade them. So I'm with you when it comes to the deadlines. I'm just not with it when you say I can only have 5 trades or 10 trades. Like, no, we're not doing that. I don't mind the money thing, like you said. That's actually a dope idea, though. Okay, Keo. Speaking of trades, you know what happens in every fantasy football league. You know how our rule is in the MBS league.
Trade review.
Yeah, you can't talk about no pending trade in the in our group chat while the trade is pending, because a lot of people try to what's the word I'm looking for? Try to get other people to veto a trade based on their opinion. But I'm
campaign a trade.
Yeah, there you go. So how many vetoes should it take for a trade to get vetoed, in your opinion?
Majority vote. Yeah, majority vote. I think that's about fair. You get the majority vote of the league to vote that the trade's not fair, then I think that's about right, because everybody has a voice to express their rights to voting a trade. But if it was me, I'm leaving up to the league manager, man.
Oh God, we're about to talk about that in a second. But
no,
go ahead.
no, because because the reason why is I, one of the reasons when I look and join the league, I look at, the credibility of the league manager because he runs the show, and I'm putting my trust and faith in him that he's gonna run the league the right way and do things and make the right decision of what's best for that league. So I don't mind if it comes to the league manager. I think the league manager could makes the right decision at a unbiased point of view. Because there are, people in certain leagues where they are with each other, could hate on another opposing person. So that's where I stand when it comes to, and majority of times, I don't think, and we've dealt with this situation before. I don't think everybody votes in a trade, and I think that's what hurts the voting system also. And shout out to C, like we've had this discussion numerous times throughout the years. But if it was up to me, I would leave it up to the league manager, because, like I said, I'm putting my trust and faith in him because he's the guy that runs the show. He's the guy that every good buddy goes to when it comes to the issues, expecting to run the league the right way. So I would go with the league manager.
Okay, I'm gonna start with the first part of what he said. Definitely, I believe that majority of the league should be able to vote to veto it. If it's, I know a lot of people have 4 or 5 vetoes, it gets vetoed. No, I don't agree with that because you're saying if you're playing a 14-team league, that 5 people thought it should be vetoed, but the rest thought it was a fair trade. I mean, that could be 5 people that's not really, cool with the person that's making the trade, or they're looking at the dude's team and saying, oh no, his team got way better. But at the end of the day, like if the rest of the league thinks that it's a good trade, then I think it should go through. Now, as far as the second point of what you're saying, Keo, I don't think it should come down to the league manager. I'm totally against what Keo just said, and I am a league manager, and Keo knows of the MBS league. Here's why. Because it's perspective. It all comes down to perspective. And integrity. Let me not just say perspective and integrity. I know I have the integrity part for sure. I'll never try to kill. I think everybody in the MBS league knows my integrity. It means everything to me. I tell people all the time, I'd rather lose than cheat to win. Like I mean that. If I win by cheating, like it just wouldn't sit right with me. So I would never do that. But when it comes down to the league, you got to hold them accountable. Like, you don't like a trade, y'all vote on it. That's not my fault. The rule is you're active. We have the MBS league. You're supposed to be active. You paid your buy-in, which is $100 buy-in. What comes with that buy-in is you're supposed to vote on every trade being made. I will send a notification out along with ESPN to let you know a trade was just made. Look, that's one responsibility as far as, I don't want to call it a job, but being a part of our league. You're supposed to vote on every trade. If it takes half the league to veto it, then so be it. That's what it's going to take. I'm not going to interject and be like, you know what? Yeah, that trade was whack. I'm going to go ahead and veto it. Because who's to say if Keo trades? Let me throw a play out there. Who's one of your sleepers, Keo?
One of my sleepers. Well, he's not a sleeper, but I'm gonna go with Najee Harris.
Okay, so Najee Harris. If Keo trades Najee Harris and I'm for Saquon Barkley or for Alvin Kamara, like, as a man, that's what he wants. He wants Najee Harris. I don't think it's a good trade. I think that's a whack trade. I'm not as high on Najee Harris as Keo is. And some people may be like, oh, no, that's not a fair trade. Well, I'm going to let the league vote on that. As a league manager, I shouldn't be able to interject that and say, you know what, I'm vetoing that trade because that's not fair. Keo should have had to give up, or Keo should have received more than just Najee Harris for Alvin Kamara. And I just think that if the league votes on it, the people have spoken. The people have basically said that's not a fair trade. Y'all got to rework it. But as a league manager, you're really putting all the responsibility on one person that has his own perspective or has her own perspective. And I just don't think that that's the way to go about it. But that's just the way my take is. I see Keo saying, because you ran the basketball league and you was over everything. And some things just had me shaking my head, Keo. Shaking my
head. I felt like what rules that I made, I mean, it's basketball league's different, but I felt like it was good, man. Some people didn't agree with it, but I respected them that they did, follow the rules, and I thought it worked out pretty good for me at the end of the day.
Okay, I ain't mad at that. I mean, like that, like that's the things. The reason why we're doing this show like this today is because if you're starting a league, you're a league manager. These are the things that you have to think about before starting your league, before having your draft. You want to think about what site am I going to use? How many people do I want in my league? What the buy-in's going to be? How the veto system's going to work? Should I veto stuff as league manager? Should I not veto stuff as league manager? We're just giving you ideas on what it's going to take to start your league. Now, by all means, you want to do it the way you want to do it. Don't do it the way I'm doing it or the way Kio's doing it. Do it the way that you see fit, but make sure that you have integrity and perspective that people can respect, because if not, this may be your only year doing your league. All right, Kio, speaking of drafts and everything, what's the best way to go? Dynasty, keeper, or start over every single year?
Um, I'm going with keeper. Keeper is trust me, I've been wanting to do keeper in the MBS league, but nobody wants to do it. I like keeper, man, because it's like you're actual a league manager, man. Like you're like a John Lynch or a Dorsey or a Gettleman or a Stephen Jones. You get to keep the players or let them go. Um, so I kind of like that, man. When it comes to type of leagues that I'm in, I'm fine with restarting the league every single year, because it's good to build a team from the jump, from scratch. So and draft it and spend it how you would want to do it, not based of what players you kept last year. So I want keeper, but I don't mind with just restarting the league.
And what about Dynasty? How you feel about Dynasty? Or you don't really do it?
To be honest with you, you kind of filled me in about the dynasty, so I'm not sure. You probably might give the people more info about that. Like, I never played in the dynasty league. I've heard about it. Like you, the homie Duke, and Ray, they've told me about it many times, but um, I've I don't know much about dynasty leagues, but I wouldn't mind. It would be a great challenge for me.
Okay. I'm going to tell you this. This is one that doesn't matter to me. This is not one that I really have a preference on. I'm not going to say I don't have a preference. I'm kind of like you. I like keepers. Dynasty is cool too. The thing with Dynasty and Keeper, here's the setback for both of those for me, is sometimes you have turnovers in your league. And when I say turnovers, you have people that drop, you have to drop and add. And when you have turnovers like that in your league, that can be a little bit confusing sometimes, because it's going to be harder to fill a spot. I go to Keo. I say, Keo, look, I got this league. It's a keeper league. I got an opening spot for you. It's $100 buy-in, but everybody got to keep two players. So you're coming in, you got a team that's trash, a team that a dude dropped, basically his team, and now Keo got to come in and spend $100 and got to revamp that team with no Alvin Kamara in the draft, no Christian McCaffrey, no Derrick Henry, and all the Nick Chubbs and the Dalvin Cooks of the world, and he got to figure it out. I think that it makes it harder to find a person to come play in a league like that. So keeper can be the best, but it also can be, something that's not great if you don't have the people that you're gonna constantly play with. The same thing goes for Dynasty. Dynasty, you keep all your players for the most part, or a bunch of the players. And if you try to bring somebody new in, it 9 times out of 10 is going to be real hard to find somebody to replace the person that was there before if the team is not at least decent. So it doesn't really matter. They're all fun to me. They all have their pros. They all have their cons when it comes to having a league. All right, Keel. OP or flex? This is another big one. People argue about this all the time. What's a better league, an OP league, offensive player, or flex? You're muted right now, boss.
Okay, my bad. Um, I'm going with flex, man. Flex is more reasonable, more understandable. OP, man, OP. It's clearly. I don't want to say it. I don't know why I'm saying it because I'm actually playing in the league like that. But man, OP, it could be cheating, dude. OP OP could be lopsided. It could be not fair. But then again, that's some people in that league's fault, not reading the rules. But OP, everybody goes after all the quarterbacks. Some people would, like some people will draft like 5 to 6 quarterbacks and use them as trade bait because those guys they score on a high rate compared to running backs and wide receivers. And anybody that plays OPs, I advise you to pick a quarterback first, man. Pick 4 quarterbacks if you're at it, man. Because, dude, I remember one year, we're playing in the OP league. This dude X over here, he ended up drafting Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. No, Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees on one team. I'm like, dude, really? And man, by the time the league ended, the dude won the league, man, because these dudes were averaging like 30, 40 fantasy points a piece, and that's a combined like 80 fantasy points. And you get that from them, your team is set, man. It doesn't even. I mean, you could have mediocre players in the rest of your position, and your team could still win based off of that.
Okay. Okay.
But if
I'm
like I said,
sorry.
rolling with flex, I'm rolling with flex.
Okay, I'm opposite again. Me and Kyo's opposite again. I'm going OP. And the reason why I'm going OP, offensive player, if anybody doesn't know what OP means, is because, like Kyo said, if you don't read the rules, that's on you. But that just goes to show you. Like a lot of people want to play fantasy, but they're not really fantasy gurus. They're not really fantasy heads like that. They just want to, go by what the magazines say. Oh, I'm going to take this player because he's rated right here. Nah, man, like I'm going OP because you got to know. You got to know what it is. A quarterback is not looked at as value as a running back in a standard league when you have a flex position. But when you do OP, like Keo said, you get 2 bad quarterbacks. Like last year, if somebody would have had Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers, let's say Aaron Rodgers, dude, they would have lit the league on fire with those 2 quarterbacks. So I'm going OP just because I think it makes you do a little bit more homework. And I'm big on, if you're going to win, I want you to I want to feel like you I don't want to say outsmarted me, but you really you was more strategic than I was. I don't want you to win based on the fact that you just got the luck of the draw. So I'm going with OP. All right, Keo. How many IR spots is good? This is a big one because some people don't do IR, and then some people do. But then with the whole COVID stuff, last year was rough. I know people added IR slots. That's injury reserve for everybody out there. If you have an injured player, like right now, Saquon Barkley's quote unquote out. How many IR or should there not be any IR when it comes to fantasy football?
I think there definitely should be IRs. I think a reasonable IR number would be 3. I think 3 is a good amount. I think 5. I think anything more than 5 is going overboard, man. But 3 is a reasonable amount, man. And even with COVID, I would definitely go with 3. Some people go with 2, but I'll go with 3.
Okay. Without COVID, I say 2. Without COVID, 2 is a great number to have IRs. I mean, if you have more than that, I mean, in a league that was like I'm talking about a few years back, 2 IR spots is more than enough. Right now, I'm going 3 or 4 when it comes to COVID. COVID can definitely change some things from week to week. So I would say 3 or 4, just because you never know. Somebody tests this pot, like the Broncos situation last year when all the quarterbacks were down. If you're playing an OP thing, man, that could get rough because you don't want to drop your quarterback. And now you're like, man, should I drop my quarterback to add somebody? It can get rough. So I would definitely say 3 or 4 with COVID. All right, Q, how many bench spots should we have?
I would say 6 to 8.
That's a good number.
Yeah, I would say 6 to 8. I think 6 to 8 is a fair bench spot. Um, yeah, 6 to 8. It doesn't even matter what type of league format's in. I think it has to be 6 to 8 bench spots.
Yeah. In the MBS league, we do 7. I'm with Q. 6 to 8 is more than enough. You have IR spots. That's perfect. If you have 6 to 8, and then you have the 2 or 3 IR spots, that's more than enough room for you to get the players that you need in there and out. So I'm going with the same thing Keo said. All right, now, Keo, this is one that I think that needs to be addressed from everybody. Okay, you know it just like I know it. Whenever a team is out of contention, a lot of times the league owner is no longer active. What can we do as league managers to make sure that a person's going to be active throughout the season, even if their playoff run is out? I know keepers is definitely one way that people, they're somewhat active because they're still trading because they're basically saying, well, I can give me a keeper for next year. Shout out to my boy Tony. He does, whoever scores the most in any given week gets $100 off the rip. You just have to score the most in any given week from the first week until the last week before the playoffs start. If you score the highest point total in a given week, you get $100. So you basically get your buy-in back. I think that's a dope idea, as well as in the MBS league. If you come in last place, you're responsible for the winner's buy-in. But what's some way that you think that people can avoid people tanking, basically?
I think a couple of the things that you just mentioned right now, I think those are the things that you could put into that you could actually put into play right now. With let me see. I mean, I know in one of your leagues is
See, I wasn't gonna do that. I wasn't gonna do that. So shout out to you.
Well,
I wasn't gonna do that. But
no, I'm not taking shots at anybody. There's a lot of fantasy owners out there. I'm in a whole bunch of fantasy groups. So I'm pretty sure you could give some ideas to other fantasy owners. I know a league that if they come into last place, you gotta dress ridiculous. I'm not gonna give you an example, but just use your imagination. I know. I know in the league that I think we did it in the MBS league. I'm not sure if we're doing it again, but whoever comes in last place, you actually have to pay the winner's buy-in, the champion's buy-in. So that's the way to actually keep it competitive. Also, I think most points every week that'll keep it competitive. Also, because there's a chance like you could a team, even though they didn't set their lineup, they could possibly knock out the team that's not even in the playoffs anymore. So I think those are things that possibly can happen in leagues to keep people in your league active despite the bad records.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that you for anybody out there that's going to set up a league, fantasy football league, excuse me, make sure that you have something in place here. This is one that you're going to want to put in place. Whether it is they receive something if they score the highest point in a single week, whether it is they got to pay the winners buy-in for next season. Have something in place because people will not be active if they feel like they're completely out of the playoff race. Put something in place, and I think you'll be fine. I would lean towards paying the winners buy-in because people don't want to pay the 100 that they have to pay like in our league, and then the other person's 100 because that can get rough. The winner's sitting pretty if they win our league, but that's where I would go with it. But that is definitely for me something that you want to put in your fantasy league. Okay, Keel, another elephant in the room. People argue about this. This is probably one of the most talked about things in our league, Keel. When should a draft happen? Before preseason, during preseason, after preseason? When is the right time to draft?
Man, I get tired of this every single year. I've had complaints about it in a whole bunch of leagues that I'm in. There's pros and cons for it. I mean, the cons of it is, if you already did a draft earlier, then somebody gets injured, you might regret about drafting, and obviously you put money on the line to draft your team the way you would want to, and you get an injury. But I think the pros of it is like the fantasy gurus, the way they look at it as it, where they already know the sleepers ahead of time already, and they don't want it, and they don't want them to showcase their talent during the preseason so everybody else could catch up to that. So I think that's the pros and cons. But for me, man, I don't care, man. I don't care when we draft, man. I even told people I'm ready to draft right now, man. It doesn't matter, man. We could draft today, tomorrow, this week, next week, after the preseason. I'm ready to draft whenever, man. But I think, but if it was up to me, I prefer to draft during the preseason. At least see 1 week of the preseason, then be able to draft. But I think because if everybody wants to draft after the preseason, do you realize how stressful that's gonna be? Because you're in 3 to 4 leagues and you gotta balance it and have your availability for those drafts. I think that's tough, man. Especially for the league managers also trying to get everybody to draft that day when they have other leagues to draft also. But for me, drafting early, I'm going with that. It's drafting early.
When's the earliest we ever drafted in any league?
I think last year the earliest we drafted was in July.
Yeah,
And it was your idea, man. You was like, oh yeah, man, we should have a draft to you know to heat things up to you get our feet wet. I'm like, man, you serious? I was like, all right, let's go.
Okay, so you know where I'm going with this. Me, shout out to my dog Duke, man. My brother Vic, man, before the preseason. I don't want you to know who I like because if I let you see a preseason and somebody shines, you're gonna be like, oh man, I'm gonna get that guy. We can go down to countless people that, I'm gonna say shout out to Duke because Duke hits on a lot of sleepers. But me, I was big on DeAndre Hopkins, and we're gonna talk about DeAndre Hopkins in a few minutes. But when DeAndre Hopkins came out of Clemson, I was extremely high on DeAndre Hopkins. And if you didn't watch him at Clemson, you might have not been as high on him because you might have been like, Sammy Watkins was the guy at Clemson. But me, I'm like, dude, you just don't know. I traded DeAndre Hopkins his rookie season for Pierre Garçon. Now, you may say to yourself, well, of course you would do that. Yeah, but that year, a lot of people thought I was tripping by doing that because Pierre Garçon was, he had good years in the NFL. But I do believe that drafting before preseason is a strong benefit for people that actually really watch this stuff. If you don't really watch it, then I think that it could, the benefit would definitely be to be after preseason for you. But if you really watch this stuff, it should be before preseason. And let's stop with the injury argument. That's the one that I don't like. When people bring up the whole injury argument. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's put this out there. I was going to draft Cam Akers this year. That was my guy. That's who I wanted. And had I drafted before preseason, or around, let's just say the July area, I would be without Cam Akers. That would have been a wasted draft pick. I get that. But I'm going to live with that. Because who's to say that Keo drafts Alvin Kamara? And yeah, preseason goes by. But in the very first game, first play, Alvin Kamara gets hurt and he's out for the season. It's the same scenario. Injuries are a part of the game. If it happens in preseason, if it happens at practice or the first game of the season, it's bound to happen. So I'd rather know up front before the season starts that, man, my guy's out for the year. Yeah, I wasted some money on him, but at least I have time to try to find somebody. It didn't happen during the game because, Keo, that could be detrimental. Somebody like Tom Brady, when Tom Brady got hurt at the beginning of the game, a lot of years back, and he missed the entire season. That's tough. That's tough. That's a loss 9 times out of 10. So I'm going with before preseason. I want to be able to, get my sleepers at a cheap price. All right, Keo, let's get to it, man. Where is the best spot? Since we're gonna talk about snake drafts just because people like it, and then we're gonna wrap it up with the question of the week. But where is the best spot to pick in a snake draft?
The best spot. I want to be last, man.
You want that back to back. You want that back to back.
Yeah, back to back. That's. I'm good with that. I get back to back picks. I love that, man. Maybe, I'm not saying I'll do it, but maybe I'll get me a Josh Jacobs. Then I'll come back. Then I'll come back and get me like a Tyreek Hill. I mean, I think that's huge, man. That's perfect, man. Like, if it's snake draft, I like back to back. I prefer not to be the first pick. I know in some leagues they have draft pick trading where you could trade your picks. If I'm in the league with that and I got the first pick, I'm asking somebody, "Hey, let's go. I'll trade my first overall pick right now."
Well, I'm opposite of Keo. I would take the first pick. If I could have any pick, of course I want the first pick. I get to pick who the hell I want. I can say, okay, look, out of everybody in the league, I can get the one guy that I want. Now, that can be tricky. This year is perfect proof of that. Like, this year, I would not want the first pick in the draft because I've said I would take Derrick Henry, but I think taking him number 1, I don't think you can go wrong with him because I think he's going to be productive regardless. But I do think that I would rather like a 5th pick in a league like today. Well, like this year, for example. 5, I say 5, well, midway, whatever midway would be. So in our league, the 8th pick would be great for me. The first, 8th, or last. I'm not mad at you for saying last. In the MBS league, if we did a snake draft, I would definitely not want the last pick. I would definitely not want in the MBS league, you would want the last pick?
No, not the MBS league.
Huh?
Not the MBS league. That's 16 teams, man.
Okay. But yeah, I think preference is just all preference. I can see why Keo says the last like a 12-man team league. But give me the first pick. Let me get who I want in normal circumstances. This year's a little different with the whole COVID thing. And a lot of players coming off the injury. Okay, Keo, let's wrap it up with this last topic. The question of the day. Me and Keo, we said how we felt last week. We put a lot of questions. Every day we put a new fantasy football question up. A lot of times it's because Keo and I have a difference of opinion on the certain players. Chat, feel free to comment in. Keo, the question of the week. Who will be the better fantasy wide receiver this year? We're not talking about 3 years ago. We're not talking about last year. We're talking about this year. Is it DeAndre Hopkins, the guy that's been putting on for the last few years, or the guy that exploded last year and really made a name for himself? And I'm talking about the new Megatron, DK Metcalf.
Wow. You, I can't believe you already started to compare him to Megatron
Don't
already.
do that. Don't do that. Just answer the question.
I'm going with DeAndre Hopkins, man. I definitely going with DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins, he's been in plenty situations. You've seen the quarterbacks that he's thrown for. And I know that we're talking about right now, but since 2017, the dude's had at least 1,300 receiving yards. He's had at least 100 receptions every year. And I just think that he's like a total package of an all-around receiver. He could hit you deep. He could hit you with the corner routes, the quick slants. I think he's a great route runner. He got great hands. He gets another year with what's his name, Kyler Murray, and Mr. Kingsbury. So I think the chemistry is going to be there. I think there'll be more on point this year. And despite what happened last season, man, with the chemistry issue, DeAndre Hopkins still got his numbers. So I think he's still going to continue to get his numbers. The reason why I'm not going with Metcalf, he's a great receiver. I got him as a top 5 receiver, but I'm taking DeAndre Hopkins first, man. So when it comes to the draft, I better not see you taking DeAndre Hopkins. If DeAndre Hopkins on the board and Metcalf's on the board, I'm expecting you to take DJ Metcalf, because if you do the opposite, we're gonna have a conversation afterwards after the draft.
Well, first of all, one thing is we do auction drafts, so it ain't gonna be like no board type stuff. I mean, maybe in Keenan's league because he does snake, and that's cool. But you're not gonna have to worry about this. Are you kidding me, man? Give me and look, Gil. You know who's been my favorite receiver since he came out of Clemson? Is
DeAndre Hopkins.
I love me some D-Hop. And that's what makes this so tough for me, because DeAndre Hopkins, man, that's my guy, man. I watched that boy destroy LSU in, I think, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. I don't want to lie. I forgot what bowl it was.
Yeah, it was the Peach Bowl.
Yeah, so for sure, I love me some D-Hop. But, no, it's different. Baby Megatron, the new Megatron, DK Metcalf. Last year, let me pull some stuff up for y'all. And I know we're talking about this year. Last year, I got both of their stats. DeAndre Hopkins had more receptions, more targets, more yards, but less touchdowns. He outscored DK Metcalf by a whopping 16 fantasy points. 16, despite having more receptions and more yards. DeAndre Hopkins had 115 receptions, 160 targets, a little over 1,400 yards, and 6 touchdowns. DK Metcalf had 83 receptions, a $129 targets, 1,300 yards, a little over 1,300 yards, and 10 touchdowns. To me, when I look at their situations, I said to myself, okay, Arizona, yes, I get what Keel's saying about, now he's going to have more chemistry with Kyler Murray. That's big facts. But you bring in a guy like A.J. Green, he's going to take some targets away from DeAndre Hopkins. Christian Kirk is a young guy that kind of had a great end of the season, but I drafted him last year at the beginning of the season. He ain't do nothing. Hopefully he does a little bit more, throughout the year. But DK Metcalf, bro, I just look at him, I said to myself, Kyler Murray's a really good quarterback, and we're going to vote him. I know we voted him in the top 15, which is going to drop real soon for you guys. But we're talking about Russell Wilson. We're talking about an elite quarterback. We're talking about top 5 on almost everybody's list. And when you look at Russell Wilson, I said to myself, man, Russell Wilson's going to get the ball to DK Metcalf. He's a physical freak. There's nobody that's going to really guard him one-on-one where he won't have some type of advantage on him. The speed, the ability to go up and catch the ball. I'm going DK Metcalf. And for me, I don't care what receiver. You can name Devontae Adams. You can name Jefferson. You can talk Mike Evans. You can talk Keenan Allen. You can talk Stephon Diggs. If there's one receiver, hey, Q, I'm telling you, if there's one receiver in the draft, if we're doing a snake draft, and I want to draft a receiver, I am drafting DK Metcalf. Hey, shout out to my dog Reg in Cupid's League. Hey, look, send me an offer. I sent you something this morning. Give me DK Metcalf, man. I want all that smoke. But yeah, I'm going Metcalf, hands down. You can't go wrong with DeAndre Hopkins. But if I can get one receiver in the fantasy football league this year, I'm going DK Metcalf easily.
So just to end my argument for Hopkins, I when I'm talking about fantasy, you mentioned the receptions, PPR leagues. Oh, I'm in there, man. But I think with DK Metcalf, the thing that slumped him over DeAndre Hopkins was the touchdowns, because touchdowns is a huge difference maker. And dude, do you see the long bombs that DK Metcalf have gotten last season? That was ridiculous, man. You get those some leagues you get those bonus points with the plus 30, plus 40, plus a touchdown, then the catches also. So that makes a huge difference also. So I could see why DK had more. But if I'm talking about a receiver that I need, man, in fantasy, in PPR type of leagues, but even though he may struggle with the touchdowns, I think D Hop will get his, man. I think he'll average at least 15 or better in every game based off of average, and I'll take that any day.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this: the reason why I chose Hopkins against DK Metcalf, because Hopkins to me is the number 2 receiver. I know people are going to say Devontae Adams should be 1 or 2. For me, it's Metcalf then Hopkins, and that's the order I would draft them. I would draft Metcalf, then I would draft Hopkins. Then we can go down the rest of the line, whether that's Adams, Diggs, whoever you want to put there. But for me, these are the top 2 receivers. So I'm not knocking anybody that says Hopkins, by no means, or no stretch of the imagination. But I'm taking Metcalf. If I get an opportunity to get DK Metcalf, that's who I'm drafting. Well, with that being said, hopefully you got a little bit more understanding of how to set up a league, what draft sites to use, which ones not to use. Shout out to the Sleeper app, too. I didn't mention them. That's the Dynasty app. This is my first year using it. I like it so far. That's why I didn't mention it too much on this show. But definitely look into that as well. But with that being said, Kia, let's wrap up this show. And next week we'll help you back with the drafts again, moving forward.
Yeah, next week. I think this upcoming week is where the first week of the preseason kicks off. So I think football fans should be excited about that. We just had the Hall of Fame game. I think the induction ceremony speech is actually today. So make sure you guys check that out. You got Peyton Manning in there, along with a lot of NFL greats that's going to be inducted to the Hall of Fame. But with that being said, yeah, time to wrap up the show. Tomorrow night, man, we're gonna talk uncensored, some battle rap. We got the MBS Let's Talk About It. And we got MBS Let's Talk About It. We're gonna be recapping the Suicide Squad movie. I got plenty to say about that. But with MBS show coming up also, so make sure you check us out, man. Shout out to the whole team: Q, J Franchise, Justin, GBD, Hurricane Do, and especially X also. But with that being said, man, it's time to wrap up the show, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Shout out to Keo, man. He had to mention uncensored because. All right, we're gonna talk about that tomorrow. Lord, oh God. All right, Keo. Calm down. We know what's up. All right. I'm gonna give you your flowers. We're gonna talk about it tomorrow. But definitely, hopefully, guys, we helped you with your league today. Hopefully you learned a little bit something. Q, I know you're gonna be playing the MBS league. Matter of fact, Q, send me your email address so I can send you that invite. Welcome to the big leagues now, man. It ain't no more. This is the real now. But in fantasy, we always end it like this: if you don't win, you have nobody but to blame but yourself. But if you do win your league, like Drake said, man, thank us later. We out. Peace.